Merhaba, it's great to be here. It's great to be here physically. It's great to see so many people mingling, interacting, seeing old friends. So thank you very much for the invitation. Today the conversation is about agile, and I want to give you also a little bit of leadership perspective. We just had a fantastic talk about a digital native company. You know, how do they manage this agile world? I'm going to talk a little bit about today how maybe a more traditional company, an insurance company, is also able to move to a much more agile world. And what that means for our leadership style. Before I start telling the story, let me briefly introduce myself. Here I am, Uco VEGTER, 52 years old. I'm a Dutch national. I've been here since 2019. And as you can see, I've had the privilege of working in different countries around the world. I started my life as a consultant and then moved to financial services about 15, 20 years ago, and had the opportunity to do lots of different things. I call myself a jack of all trades, master of none. For those of you who don't know Eureko Sigorta, Eureko Sigorta is one of the leading non-life insurance companies in Turkey. As you can see, we have roughly 1 million customers. We work closely with Garanti Bank. Garanti Bank is our main distribution partner, and we employ roughly 750, 770 people. Here's the deer. We are owned by Achmea. Achmea is one of the largest insurance mutuals, cooperatives in Europe, based in the Netherlands, and operates in multiple countries, including Turkey. Okay, let's talk a little bit, before I start, I would like you to think a little bit about, as a CEO, what do you think I am doing, and what do you think I should be doing? I am given the time we have, I don't necessarily ask you now, but I want you to think a little bit about this before I tell my story, and I hope at the end there is a match. If there's a not, hopefully I have triggered some thoughts about leadership. Yeah? Okay. When I joined Eureko Sigorta in the middle of 2019, I sat down with the company and with the management team and said, okay, let's redefine our strategy. And, as always, to me, the critical part about the strategy is, why are we here? What are we doing? And what is our bigger purpose in this country or in this sector? And we concluded that we said, life is challenging. Life in general is challenging, and with all the economic challenges in the world, the rapidly changing environment, we said we would like to be for our people, and we believe we can provide people with a peace of mind. So our job as a company is to say, how can we provide a peace of mind for a better tomorrow? Insurance, as you are aware, and we sell car insurance, home insurance, we want to make sure that when something happens with your car, with your home, or with your family, with your health, we are there, and you don't have to be worried. And this is a very important part of our strategy. It talks nothing about insurance to give ourselves a bigger purpose. Once we agreed on this purpose as a whole company, and everybody's involved in this process, we said, okay, this is all good, this is our lighthouse, this is what we want to do, but how do we get there? And this is how we defined our strategy. And our strategy, as you can imagine, is much more specific about what we do as an insurance business. Today, I don't want to talk about too much our strategy, but I would like to point out one very important part of the strategy, which is the customer. We said if we really want to provide this peace of mind to our customers, we got to make sure that we put the customer at the center of everything we do. We need to become truly customer-centric. Now, the interesting thing is, if you ask any CEO in a company, they say the customer is the most important thing. But then we ask them, how are you structured as a company? They say, well, we have operations department, we have a finance department, we have a sales department, we have a product department. And you ask them, okay, but where is your customer department? Oh yeah, we have something called marketing. If you ask the company, okay, how are you reporting your financials? We sell product A and product B, maybe this distribution channel, that distribution channel. So most companies, including insurance, would like to think they're customer-centric, but the way they're structured, the way they report, to think about their customers, is not at all the case. And I think this is very important. When you think about Agile, when you think about any transformation, you said, okay, why we're doing it? And we said, the most important reason we want to change our organization the way we want to work is because we said we want to put the customer at the center of everything we do. And therefore, we're willing to change everything about our company. We realized, therefore, that this is not an easy task. And as a result, we started a transformation program. The beginning of 2020, we got 750 people together in Antalya, and we shared our vision, our dreams, our strategy, and also kickstart this transformation program, which we called Rethink, Rework, Retell. This was all about really reimagining our entire organization. There's 3 components that I think I'd like to point out which are really critical. The first thing we did is we did a complete organization redesign. So I said, if the customer is critical, let's center ourselves around customers. The second thing is we said, okay, by focusing ourselves around the customers who are very demanding, they expect lots of change. If they see something on one website, they want it to be implemented on our website as well. So we need to become much more agile and frugal. So we changed the way of working. And last but not least, we said, okay, to make this a success and really making sure that everyone in the company understands this, believes in it, we need to enhance our communication. So our transformation focused on those 3 things. Rethink about how we think about insurance, rework how we work together, and retell how we tell our story, not to ourselves, but also to our customers. Now, again, I want to highlight this time a few specific things about this transformation, because I could easily talk much longer. The most important part that I think we realized is to say, if we're going to put the customer at the center of everything we do, let's also change our structure. And the big change to that, as I said, we went from a typical functional organization, that is the case in many companies, to a cross-functional customer segment-based organization. I'm sure some of you recognize that if you're not working in an agile environment. You know, you have your sales guy who wants something. He goes all to the top and says, I want this. Then he'll be instructed, this is the product I want. It goes all the way to the bottom. The product guy develops it. Said, okay, good, I want this product. He goes all the way top to IT guy, says, okay, we can do this. It goes all the way to the bottom. So a typical hierarchical cross-functional teams, the collaboration is much more complicated. Instead, what we have done is we have bundled, not entire organizations, but large part organizations in teams, we call them domains, which together serve the customer. So we now have a team that focuses on our retail customers. And in that team, we have product people, we have pricing people, we have IT people, we have finance people, we have data people, we have specialists on claims and engineering. So as these teams, and we split those teams again in smaller teams, they themselves as cross-functional teams are really able to serve the customer themselves. And this to me is the key. You know, agile transformations, don't do it for sake of agile, do it for a purpose. And we said if we want to serve our customers well, we need to structure ourselves around the customer needs. And the other thing we've done is said, okay, rather than this up and down, escalating everything to the top, let's put people together in one team who can be, as my previous speaker said, you know, be like a mini startup. They themselves own the P&L. They themselves are responsible. So 2 important things, cross-functional, as well as making sure you place responsibility much lower in the organization. Very important if we're going to be successful. This, of course, has big implications. All of a sudden, I have a very experienced IT guy who's working very experienced marketing guy or very experienced sales guy. So who becomes the boss? And therefore we recognized, in addition to creating this new organization structure, we also need the way we change the way we work. And this is why we implemented Agile. We implemented Agile really for two main reasons. One is to make sure we become much more short cycle, being flexible, being able to plan better rather than having these big 6 to 9 months projects. Let's really try and deliver an increment to our customer every 2 to 4 weeks. That's the most important part. Second part is self-steering. As I said, if you have a cross-functional people, there isn't an obvious boss because they all bring their area of expertise. So what we do is cross-functional people working together as a self-steering team. And last but not least, and I think that's also something that some people forget, if you are going to make decisions together as a team, if you no longer have the boss saying what to do, how do you make decisions? Well, you make decisions based on consensus, but to get to consensus, you also need to have the data. So data is an incredibly important part of the journey, because if you don't have data, whether it's for A/B testing or understanding how the impact has been of a small change that you made, it's going to be very difficult. Yeah, so those are three things in terms of the way we work, which is agile, self-steering, and much more data-driven. Yeah, so that's kind of the second part of our big transformation. We are now roughly 2 years into this journey. And I just want to give some perspective to all of you who are maybe about to embark on this journey or think about it. What are our lessons learned so far? We have a long way to go, but I think I can some lessons learned. First of all, don't underestimate. Maybe it's easy when you are in a digital native environment, but when you want to transform a much more traditional company into a truly agile environment, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a huge amount of commitment. What are the three things I want to say? First of all, please understand that everything you do is very new to people. So it's very important you start creating a common language. So starting from our quarterly planning cycle, which we now QBRs, to setting objectives, which we call OKRs, to having sprint planning, sprint reviews, retrospectives, all those things are incredibly important, and people must understand them, and everybody should speak the same language. So focus on establishing your own language. Some people call it tribe, some people call it domain, some people call it Kanban, some people call it agile. It doesn't matter. Create your own language, but making sure that everybody understands that language. And don't assume, really spend time on it. The second thing I'd like to say is invest in mastery. We have spent a huge amount of money and time and energy in the last 2 years on training. Training on the basics, what is agile, why agile, what is our strategy, why our strategy, to now increasingly also much more specific training. And I'm going to come back to that later. The third thing is, I say, and I mentioned this before, communicate, communicate, communicate. You think I tell it once, you think I tell it twice, people understand. It's not the case. You need to tell people 10, 15, 20 times why we're doing it, why it's important, how it works. And at some point, it will click. Some people clicks the first time, some people clicks only after 15 times. It doesn't matter. But as a leadership team, you have to continue to invest in communicating why we're doing it, what's important. And last but not least, and I can't stress enough, yes, agile is about empowerment bottom up. Yes, it's about kind of people working together, but please lead from the top. If you as leaders don't take the lead, it's not going to work. So what does it mean? We too have our own agile Kanban board. We in the first year attended every single sprint review together as a team. And even now we still probably attend 50% of all the sprint reviews. That's the way people understand it's important, but equally important, it allows us to fine-tune, what's going well, what's not going well, where do we need more training, where can we kind of, which teams are doing it, what can we learn. So really starting from the top and getting involved is incredibly important. Those are the success factors, the most important success factor I want to talk about. I want to highlight one or two things specifically. As I mentioned, the importance of training. You know, the reality is that most people have come from a traditional world where there was a manager, and the manager would tell you what to do. And we'd have certain processes of how it would work. We're asking people to really change the way they do it. We're asking people to co-create. We ask people to work together. We ask people to take initiative. And we ask them to do it with all these new rituals, whether it's the use of Jira, the traditions of Agile. It is very important you invest in training. So we did a training initially for everybody. And as I said, now we're starting to fine-tune this. And one of the things we're particularly proud of is we established our Eureko Academy. Eureko Academy is not just another academy of training. Eureko Academy is to some extent a platform for self-learning. So we have identified already 2 Agile Masters and Product Owners, a curriculum that has been developed by our Agile coaches, but it is about these people learning together. So rather than sitting in the classroom passively, these people are truly spending time talking to each other, watching YouTube movies, reading documents to really enhance themselves, their skills all the time, and using the experience that they have day to day to make sure that they elaborate that. Yeah, so self-learning, co-creation, in my view, is an incredibly important part of this journey. So that's what I wanted to say. The other thing I want to say is, and this comes back to my question about leadership. You know, on the one hand, there's leadership as the leaders, the CEO, the executive team, but also there's leadership in a team. You know, how do you manage self-learning? How do you manage self-steering? And this is what I call the importance of cultural change. Some of you may have heard the word from doing Agile to being Agile. And again, some of this was mentioned earlier today. You know, if you think about what are the key components to successful self-steering teams, how do these teams really work together? You know, I think a few things that I'd like to say. First of all, create the psychological safety. You know, people should feel that they can make mistakes, that they can ask questions that seem silly, and people are really open to kind of doing that. It's incredibly important. People should speak up and feel the comfort that they can say everything they want to say. The second very important part is this feedback culture. You know, if you want to improve as a team, you cannot afford everybody keeping quiet. People have to have the confidence to speak up and saying, you know, I think this we need to do better. Or, you know, I was disappointed you didn't help me with this. Or why didn't we involve this person in the team? Please, incredibly important that you create a feedback culture where people are really happy to share and understand how they can do better in a constructive way. The second part is about incremental improvements. I've always said our transformation is a journey. You know, don't expect Agile to work overnight. This takes a long, long time. But celebrate the incremental successes. You know, even we are still not completely finished. Even we are only for the last, I'd say now 6 to 9 months or so, using Agile portfolio management for our IT departments. The first year we didn't even have it. So both as an organization, we look at incremental improvements, but also as a team, you know, hope to get better, a little bit better every time. Don't expect it to be perfect from the beginning. It's a journey that you need to go on to. And last but not least, transparency. You know, one of the beauties of Agile, in my view, is on the one hand, we're empowering people, self-steering, empowered teams, and at the same time, a high degree of transparency. You know, for those of you who have used this, but Jira is a fabulous tool because every 2 weeks we are explaining to each other what we're committed to doing, what we're going to deliver, and even if not 100% gets delivered, at least everybody knows exactly what the other person is doing, how they can help each other, you know, where the bottlenecks are. So this degree of transparency is important. Transparency into what you're doing, but also transparency in the data, in the facts. You know, if we are going to implement an incremental change, let's test it. You know, how many more people have come to our website? How many people have bought this new product? Why is that not so big? What can we do to improve it? So the transparency part is incredibly important. So 2 words I want you to remember. Yes, it's about empowerment, giving people the responsibility, allow an organization to make decisions, but with empowerment comes accountability. Accountability is about this transparency and being very clear about what you've done and what you haven't done. So those are the 4 things I'd say to you when you think about the cultural change required to kind of be successful. Those are the 4 areas that I say really invest and take time to get this right, because without those 4 things, it's going to be very successful, very difficult to be successful. Yeah? Okay, so this is about leadership as a team. What does it mean for us? You know, you've realized, and I've talked about empowerment, about self-steering, I talked about putting responsibility low in the organization. So you ask yourself, okay, well, why do we still have a leadership team? Right? What are they still doing? And, you know, this is, I think, a very valid question. You know, but we decided that, you know, we are empowering people, we're training people, we have lots of smart people, you know, give them room to succeed, and frankly, get out of the way, you know, and let them tell us what we should be doing rather than the other way around. Because frankly, most of the time, they know much better than us. They are talking to clients all the time. They are really into the details of everything. What am I to say that I know better? I really don't. So what does it mean for people like us, people like me? Is there still a job for me? Fortunately, I think there is. Because frankly, to me, leadership is not about the position. Leadership is not about where you are, your title. Leadership is about actions. Leadership is you demonstrate leadership through your actions rather than through your title. You know, it's no longer required that I can simply say, just because I'm the CEO, I can tell you what to do. It is a very important change that people should understand. Leadership is about action rather than position. So what do we do? You know, I'm sure you've heard this term of being a servant leader, an agile leader. You know, to me, it is all about empowering people. It's all about coaching people, mentoring people. It's about removing impediments. You know, my most important question I ask after every sprint review to say, what it is I can do to make you more successful? What impediments are there for you to not achieve your job? I will never tell them, please do this. Because ultimately, the moment I tell them what to do something, it becomes my problem rather than their problem. Yeah? I want people to take ownership. I have given you the resources, the people together to successfully work as a team and make a success. And therefore, I should get out of the way. And instead, you know, my job is to encourage people, to communicate with people, to hear what's going on, what the problems are, and of course, be a student. Like I want my people to learn new skills. It's very important that I too learn new skills, whether it's on the digital side, whether it's on some of the technical side, you know, whether it's on the finance side. If we as leaders don't continue to learn new techniques, new skills, I'm telling you all, we're going to survive not very long. We will die in this because the world around is changing too fast. This is what I wanted to share with all of you, is that as agile leaders, please empower your people. Please take a role of, you know, removing impediments, coaching people, because honestly, the real success comes when we are giving the people the room to grow, for them to make decisions, because unless you make your own decisions, you will not take ownership. And to me, the key to any success is people taking ownership. And the lower I place that responsibility, the more people take ownership. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your time.